Hello and welcome back to My Own Worst Enemy. We are still playing Fading Glory, but this is going to be the last session of that. Why will this be the last session? Because it dawned on me that the Fall Assembly, the Armchair Dragoons Fall Assembly Convention in Cary, North Carolina is coming up very soon, and I need to pack this away and take it with me because I'm teaching this at the Fall Assembly. So I'm not going to be able to finish this, unfortunately, but that's okay. We'll play along another turn or two here. I think we've been through an entire day. We went through a night turn, so you've seen everything that this scenario has to offer. You've got a good feel for how this thing plays, how the rules operate, except for the optional rules, and I didn't use all of those, but I would love to try this game at some point with all the optional rules in play. I think that would make it a much better game. Now, there are two things I want to correct here, and this actually, one is big, one's huge, and it really would have changed the game entirely, and I completely missed it. But first, this cavalry unit, this was during the last night turn. He was sitting here and I moved him 3. I noted this in the video when I did the editing because I caught it then as well. But this unit was moving at night and I moved him 3. He should only be able to move 1 at night. So he could have gone either this way or this way. So we're just going to put him there. That's as far as he could have gone. Now, the big mistake that I made. And like I said, this was huge. This, in my opinion, would have changed the game entirely. But so in this scenario, we've gone through the Kutuzov's defense release plan over here. Basically, at the beginning of the Russian player's turn, you roll a die and determine whether or not 1 unit or 2, depending on where the French are, 1 or 2 units can be released to move and play. But what I failed to note when it happened, and this is in the playbook in that section that describes the release plan, the 4th corps down here, if you remember, at the beginning of the last turn, the last playthrough rather, the 4th Corps actually took the Great Redoubt from the Russians. As soon as that happens, if you look under releasing the army, it gives you some other, it tells you how the table works, but it also says, that if a unit is in battle with another French unit, then it's released, which makes sense, and it's for the rest of the game. But it also says if a French unit ever occupies the Great Redoubt or is adjacent to Gorky, which is up here. So if a French unit, which the 5th Corps did, takes the Great Redoubt at any point, all these units are released, and they're released for the remainder of the scenario, and you don't even roll on this table anymore. So when the 4th Corps took the Great Redoubt early in the last video, all of these units should have been released, and that was early in that playthrough. So all of these units really would have moved a lot further down than where they are now. So that was my mistake, and I just didn't even catch that. And like I said, that would have changed the game. So we're just I'll play through another turn or 2. And then like I said, I'm going to stop it because I've got to take this with me to Cary, North Carolina for the convention. When I get back from that convention, of course, I will talk about what happened down there and maybe post some videos of that. So I'm going to go ahead and play through another turn or 2, like I said. And then when I come back, we will set up something new. Now, if you've been looking for the continuation of Conquest and Consequence, I've also stopped that playthrough. I had to make a change on that game table. I'm trying a new video camera setup. I got a rail that I'm trying to install. So I did have to pull that. It looked like nobody was watching it anyway. The views on that one, those Conquest and Consequence videos were really low. But I do plan on revisiting that at some point because that is a very fun game. And I may, if there's enough interest, I may go back and play an entire game of that at some point. So let's go ahead and jump into this real quick. Like I said, maybe one more turn. We will start with the random events for the French. So let's go ahead and get the game turn marker. It's now morning. And there's a note on here that says lulls are allowed. And I don't remember if we talked about what a game lull is. Basically, it's another way to gain a morale point. What happens is after the first night turn occurs, and you start the next day, in this case, September 6th. If any time during the day now, if you don't force march your army or make any battle rolls during your opponent's reaction phase or your own combat phase, then you gain 1 morale point. And that's, of course, if your side has fewer than 6 morale points, which here both sides do, and your side does not have more morale points than your opponent. So in this case, the French could try one of these lull turns. Now, I think that would be really difficult to do because like I said, like the rules state, you can't really participate in any combat, is what it's saying. You can't force march your units. They're just going to kind of sit there and regain 1 morale point. But I think that'd be very difficult to do. So that's what this lulls allowed means. So we have 2 units coming on, and I'm going to have to see where these go. We've got a cavalry unit again and a 4-2 strength unit coming in. So I'm going to put those off over here. I think they're coming in B, but I don't know. Let's take a look. Okay, so in the setting up the game where it talks about where reinforcements come in, and this is turn 6, so this is, oh, okay, so the split here, it looks like. Who is coming in where? So the cavalry's coming in at area B, and this infantry unit is going to come in at area A. So let's go ahead and do the random event first. And you may immediately attempt to rally French units as per 10.0 in the rules. There's nobody to rally. Doesn't say reshuffle, so that's really no effect for the French. And now we'll go into movement. So let's see, where do we want to start? And I tell you what, let's go ahead and say that all of these units, I'm going to put them up right now. I think all of these units should have been released. And I don't think they should have been released. They should have been released when the French took the Great Redoubt. I should have flipped every one of these units are now active. Let's start up here. This cavalry unit can go 1, 2. Let's do that. We're going to go 1, 2. That'll push him against Borodino up here. Borodino proper. This unit's going to go, we stay on the road, we get a +1. I'm not going to spend a morale point to increase that. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3. This one's going to go, he can go 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, but he can't do that. 1, 2, 3. If he stays, well, let's just go 1, 2, 3. We'll just have him follow behind. Let's go ahead and bring this one on. Since he comes in here, he can go 2. So he's going to go 1, 2. This one can go 3. Let's move these first. 1, 2. No, we don't want to do that. What I will do is this. I'll go 1, 2 with this cavalry. 1. We bring him in here, we can go 1, 2, 3. So let's do that. He's going to go 1, 2, 3. This unit can go 2. So let's just go 1, 2. That's that cadre that we created last time. And so I think that is it for movement for the French. And then now we go into the, of course, enemy reaction phase here. I don't think there's any cavalry that can react. Nope, no cavalry that's in the zone of control of the French. So now we will go into combat. We'll start up here. And so the French are at 1. It's been a morale point, so we got to think about that. The Russians will be they're in a town, they're in Borodino, so I think they get a +1 for that. Quick check says they do. So they're at 1, and they'll get 1 more, so now they're at 2. The way it stands now, that would put the French on the -1 column, which I don't think they really want to be on there, but that's not too good. So do they want to spend a morale point? They're at 4. I'm going to say no. We have these other units coming back, so we'll just wait and see what happens. So let's say they're not going to spend a morale point. So do the Russians want to spend it? So now the French have said no. They could now go to 3-1. That would put the French on the -2 column. And I don't think they're going to spend it here either. Let's just have a die roll on the -1 column for the French. Let's see what they get. And of course, they roll as low as they can. So that is an attacker routed. So that is not good. That would have been a rout. That would have, if the Russians had spent a morale point, that would have broken that unit. So a rout, what does that mean? So they have to roll for how far back that unit goes. So the Russian player is going to roll how far back will this cavalry retreat. And that's 2. So that's good news for the French, because remember that if they have to retreat further than their printed movement value, then that would have been a morale change. So they have to go back 2. So I'm just going to say they're going to come back this way. 1, 2. And then he will earn a routed marker. And remember that it's the French player's turn, so it's the white border that goes on. So it's the color of the players whose turn it is not. So that's going to be a routed marker on that cavalry unit. And that will conclude that combat. And now we have one more combat down here. And it's at the Great Redoubt. So the French are sitting at unmodified values 5, because they've got the 4th Corps and the cavalry unit. So it's not 50. They wish they were at 50. So it's going to be 5, And the Russian player, he's in the Great Redoubt. He's at 2, so that's going to be a 3 unmodified. So now the French player, do they want to spend a morale point here? I'm going to say yeah, they're going to spend it. It's going to take them down to 3. So this will give them a +1. Now they're at 6. And the Russian player is sitting at 3. So that's pretty bad for the Russian player because that puts the French on the +3 column. And I think they're going to spend a morale point here. It'll give them a chance to at least get a non-effect if they roll a 1, which the French seem to be doing, honestly. So that's going to put them on the 4 combat value. So now we're on the +2 column for the French, and they attack. And they roll a 4. So 4 on the what did I say? +2 column. That is a defender withdrawal. So in this case, the defender has to retreat 1 hex. I'm just going to pull him back 1. That's to here. Now we've got a cavalry unit and an infantry unit. We've got to roll on the controlled advance table to see if that cavalry unit is going to advance. And there's no modification because the combat strength is only a 1. So let's see if control is maintained or lost. A 2, that's control lost. So the cavalry unit will have to advance into the Great Redoubt. And I believe now we are at the end of the French player's turn. So now we will flip the game turn marker over to the Russian side, and the Russians will now draw their random event. Let's see what they get. Generals argue during your movement phase, units from different commands. Now here we're not using the command optional rule. So this is not going to apply. But if we were using commands, and this is like I said, where I think this actually, if you use these optional rules, it really makes the game even that much more fun. But you would not be able to move through each other's hexes, the other commands. You would have to avoid your unit that's not in the commander's command area would not be able to go through those hexes. It's saying units that begin adjacent have to stay put. So no effect here for the French. And now we would go into movement. And this is what I was saying from the mistake I made, that these units really should be much further down. So it really changed the game, and it kind of sucks for the Russian player that I didn't catch that. So let's go ahead and move. I think this guy's going to sit here. This cavalry could go, well, how many morale points? It could spend the morale point to up their movement by 1. 1, 2, 3. So he could get this guy around to help defend Borodino. And this militia unit could now move 2, but I think we've lost control of the Great Redoubt over here. Maybe not though. Let's see. This cavalry can go 4 if I spend a morale point. So he could go 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's spend the morale point. Let's do it. So this unit's going to go 1, 2, 3. So he's going to end up here. That one's going to stay put. And the cavalry, I said, could go 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do that. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. This one's locked in a zone of control. This one's locked. This militia could go 3 now. So it could go 1, 2. Let's do that. Let's go 1, 2. This one's going to go 1, 2. This one can go 3. This is the special unit for the Russian player. So 1, 2, 3. The artillery can go 3. 1, 2, 3. This cavalry can go 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll put them here. These can go 4 because they get the +1 from morale point. And if they stay on the road, they could go 4. So you can go 1, 2, 3, 4. This one can go 1, 2, 3, 4 because they're moving along the road. There is is that a bridge there? I think it is. Let's take a quick look. It's a ford. So this one can go 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And this one can move 4, so it can really move 5 with the +1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can get all the way outside of Gorky down here. And that is all the movement that the Russian player is going to do. Now, reactionary movement. We do have a cavalry here that could react. It's in the Great Readout though, so does he want to react? So he can't disengage. Now, this is where that rule that we're not using would come into play again. The cavalry, the penetration rule states that he can move from one enemy zone of control to another. So if we were using that rule, he could disengage into this hex. One thing they can do though is countercharge, because remember that when you do the countercharge with your cavalry, you choose which enemy you want to attack. You don't have to attack both. In this case, we could countercharge the militia. That might be the smart thing to do here. Or we stay put and see if we can hold on, but he's not in a very good position right now because we got these 3 units and nobody to help him there. So I'm going to say they're going to countercharge the militia that's coming in. So let's go ahead and see. So we'll start off with the French. He's strength 1, but he's countercharging. So whenever you countercharge with the cavalry, you get double your combat values. In this case, it's only going to be a 2, but that's still a good bump. Russian player there's no terrain there, so he's only at a 1. Now, do the French want to spend a morale point? No, it's not worth it to them. Do the Russians want to spend a morale point? And no, they don't. So it's going to be on the +1 column for the French. And they roll a 3, so on the +1, a 3 is defender withdrawal. So that was good for the Russians because it causes this Russian unit to pull back here, let's say. So he withdrew. And now we have to see if the cavalry unit must advance. I think he's going to advance either way, but let's see. So we're going to roll on the control advance table. It is a 2, and it says that they've lost control and must advance, but they would have anyway. So they're going to move down here. Okay, so that was the enemy reaction phase. Now we go to combat. And so you can see where this countercharge thing really does throw off your opponent's coordination and timing. The attack was set up with the Russian player such that he wanted to attack the Great Readout and take it. But the fact that there was a cavalry unit in there that countercharged, now you conduct your combat where you have enemy units in the zone of control of your units. And here it's only this 1 now, so they can't really walk into the Great Readout. So we have 1 combat to resolve, and let's do that. It is now the Russian player who is at 3-4, and then the French player, that cavalry unit, is at a 1. That's going to be potential bad news for the French player, but we still have a situation here where I think that cavalry unit can retreat. Let me look and see. No, I don't know what I'm thinking here. That would be we've already done our enemy reactionary phase. I'm thinking of Battles of the American Revolution where cavalry can retreat before combat. So no, it's just the way it is. He can't go anywhere. He's already reacted. So now we're going to have this combat, which is not going to be good for the French player here. The French are definitely not going to spend a morale point, and the Russians aren't either. They wouldn't waste it on this battle. So let's get our combat results table out. This is going to be on the +3 column. This is going to be bad news for the French cavalry unit. And that is a 4 on the +3 is a defender routed. And so the Russian player will see how far back that cavalry is going to have to retreat. Only 1, so they got lucky again. So he's going to come back to here. And he will get a routed marker. So it'll be blue because it is the Russian player turn. And let's see. Are there any more combats to resolve? No. So remember, at the end of the combat phase, you remove the routed markers of your side's color. In this case, this white would come off of the French player. And that would conclude the combat for the Russian player. That concludes the Russian player's turn. And with that, I'm going to stop the game here. Like I said, I do have to pack this thing up and get ready for the fall assembly coming up soon. So yeah, that's it. That was a very fun playthrough. I really like this game, and I really wish they would continue on with it. Like I said, I think Decision may have the rights to it. If they do, I wish they would do something with it. I also have this in my possession. So this is the Gettysburg game, which is based on this. So it's pretty much the same rules system. And I haven't played it yet, but maybe if there's interest, I will do a playthrough of this. And it looks like it's a pretty nice map. You get cards and counters and everything. Very few counters in this one. But yeah, I really enjoy this system. It's a real fun, fast playing game. The random events just add to the replayability. The optional rules, I think, make this game, well, will make this game so much better. And I do intend to play with those optional rules. In fact, it probably will at the fall assembly. We will probably use the optional rules, but I'll leave that up to the players. It is a teaching game. So usually when I do a teaching game, it's always the basic rules just so you learn the base mechanics before you start stacking on the optional stuff. So other than that one mistake I made, and you can see how far those units advanced this turn. They should have really advanced about that far the last playthrough, and that really, I think, would have changed the game even more. The French player in this scenario didn't do all that well. It kept rolling really low with this blue D6, and it really hurt them. So they had one more stack of reinforcements coming in. There's some artillery down there that may or may not have helped. And the Russian player had his artillery unit coming in. And like I said, in this game, artillery, it is powerful, but it's not that critical. There's only a couple of units per side, and maybe one unit per side in this scenario. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you have not. And as always, I look forward to seeing you back here next time.